Hello, friends! Welcome to the fire. I hope you're all well because I got quite a doozy of a that guy story for you here. Pro tip, don't make that guy your DM. r/rpghorrorstories posted by uvim_r_c. My husband knew a guy, Kevin, from way back in high school. They were never friends, but they kept in touch through social media over the years, and so my husband knew Kevin was low-key obsessed with D&D and was dying to join a group. So naturally, when we were looking for a new party member for the new campaign, he was invited for a one-shot homebrew with pre-made PCs. It was fun, and we didn't see red flags, and Kevin was over the moon that he finally got to play D&D himself. Kevin was committed to drive 2 hours every week, so we decided to bring him in on our new campaign. This paragraph is skippable, but it paints the full picture of Kevin's character and why we let him get away with shit for too long. Kevin was a complete min-maxer and rules warrior. My party members gave him some flack for lifting his background from some anime, but the worst part was he wrote a magic weapon into his backstory and wanted to start with it in his equipment. We started at level 1, by the way. My husband was DM, and he said he allowed it if the weapon was broken and unusable and just for RP purposes. Alright, first session, and Kevin immediately goes off to find someone who could repair his weapon and kept this up throughout the campaign. He'd often forget things that were of disadvantage for his character. He'd also argue with my husband about the interpretation of the rules every turn, and got aggravated if my husband finally cut off the discussion with DM's decision is final. Kevin also made offhand remarks when anything good happened to my character. It was just because I was sleeping with the DM. It was an annoyance, but outside of the game, Kevin was very friendly and clearly extremely happy to be able to play, so we kind of rolled with it. Then one time over pizza break, we caught Kevin looking at the DM notes on the puzzle dungeon we were doing. My husband pulled him to the side and wanted to kick him out of the party. Kevin got extremely upset and was on the verge of tears. He said he just wanted to impress us and wanted us to like him, and how D&D was everything to him. This guy didn't have much going on in his life, so we felt kind of bad. My husband told him he could stay if he seriously cleaned up his act. Also, no more discussion about the rules or fudging dice or forgetting things, or else he'd be gone. After this, Kevin behaved extremely well and clearly put his best foot forward to stay in the group. When our campaign ended, my husband/the DM gave us a lot of space to write an epilogue about how our characters would go and spend their lives. Our party wasn't very compatible in alignment and personalities, so we all went separate ways. I was attached to my character, but it was nice to let her retire in peace and wealth, and it felt finished to me. Kevin was very keen to DM the next campaign, and because my husband was forever DM, he was happy to switch. From the get-go, we didn't have a lot of fun. The whole thing was an endless dungeon crawl with the same group of 4 to 5 goblins on every corner. There was no roleplay, no puzzle element, no interactive environment. The plot was thin, and it solely revolved around my character and background, and it wasn't clear why the others would even help me. But the party went along cause hey, it was Kevin's first time as a DM. We also didn't want to be that party who would just go do something else entirely. But we were just rolling for combat and counting XP non-stop 4 sessions, and the combat wasn't even fun. Kevin kept targeting my husband, Squishy Class, every single combat, even if there were more obvious or closer targets. My husband had to make death saves pretty much every combat. Kevin was also extremely harsh on rulings regarding my husband and shut down every comment about it with DM has final say. It really seemed he was suddenly trying to get back at him for the previous campaign. The opposite was true for me. I was never targeted in combat. Rogue, we found great items which were specific to my class and background, and the others didn't get shit. The plot revolved around my character, and he made it into a chosen one trope. Even my low rolls somehow succeeded. We didn't necessarily see this for the red flag it was, cause he was just a little inexperienced with girls, and probably didn't want to go too hard on me/my character or whatever. At this point, my husband and I told Kevin gently that we like some more roleplay and non-combat skill checks in the campaign, cause the whole dungeon crawler hack and slash video game thing wasn't for us. Next session started promising. We were resting and 2 NPCs showed up. It was my previous PC, half-orc barbarian, and Kevin's previous PC, gnome wizard. Kevin started this entire monologue from my PC's point of view about how after the previous campaign ended, my character quickly realized that she was in love with his PC and went out to find him, and they ended up getting married. And then the characters left. What? All my F's. He just made her come on stage to effectively erase the entire epilogue I wrote out for her. And it wasn't even relevant to the plot? It wasn't even interactive roleplay. It was either Kevin's confession of love or getting back at my husband. Or both. I was pissed. My husband was pissed. We didn't hang out with Kevin after that. Wow, that was just, whew! These horror stories. What a trip. Alright, first things first, one of the things I want to make a comment on in this story was when Kevin first got caught. He was upset, on the verge of tears, and telling the group that he just did what he did to impress them, and how D&D was everything to him. Yeah, that was not just a big red flag, but an entire color guard of red flags, followed by a whole marching band playing Sad Old Red by Simply Red, along with a float of Clifford the Big Red Dog. Now, if playing D&D is your entire life, then I don't know what to tell you, but get some proper therapy instead of using your gaming group as group therapy, because it's not fair to push your mental and emotional baggage onto them. Also, don't cheat, because not only are you cheating yourself, but in this group setting, you're cheating everyone else out of an experience, and that's a total jerk move. Now, on to the second campaign, where Kevin decided to be the DM. Yeah, honestly, the whole repetitive nature of it, that's pretty easy to forgive, as it's the guy's first time as a DM. But how he treated the previous DM was simply petty with a capital P. When it comes to things like this, I believe that the DM, GM, or whatever should be an impartial arbiter of the rules. But how he ended it all? Ooh, now that was cringe. I was embarrassed just reading through that. It was just so desperate and sad. Most of the time, I would say that the person wasn't aware of how their actions would come across. But this time, I think Kevin was well aware, and he purposely did what he did as a giant middle finger to the group, due to his previous actions. He strikes me as one of those guys who would take down everyone else with him out of spite. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. And would you kindly follow the socials posted in the description below. As always, be good, be great, be Awesome!